Okay, so the bro code is actually a serious thing that people have to follow, but no one told me that the bro code mattered towards their moms slash parents. Like, does that really matter? Like, let's be real here, guys. But anyways, guys, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story takes place back when I was in grade 9, and slowly it'll evolve over the years, but basically, I remember in grade 9, it all starts off with me meeting a friend of mine in school. Basically, I remember one time I went inside my classroom, and there was a really shy kid that was like really like going through a hard time, I guess. He was originally like a friend of mine in middle school, but I guess like when I entered in grade 9, he was going through something. So obviously, me being a good friend, I remember I walked up to him and said, "Hey bro, like you chilling? Like what's going on? I haven't talked to you since middle school." He looked at me and said, "Oh, like everything's fine, you know, just family stuff, I guess." And I'm like, "What do you mean family stuff?" And then he told me, "You know, like my mom and dad, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember," because they used to like pick me up for like events that would happen at the school and like pick me up from my place. So I was like fairly familiar with his parents. He ended up telling me, "Oh, well, they've been like arguing and stuff all the time, and I don't get sleep, and it's just going through a lot." I remember I looked at him, I told him, "Oh, like, do you want me like tell the counselor about it or something? Is there anything I can do to help?" And then I remember he said, "Nah, like they don't do anything, bro. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm just gonna figure it out." And then I said, "Okay." Now remember, that was in grade 9. Now we gotta fast forward to 2 years later when we were in grade 11. Now when we were in grade 11, I was still friends with this guy, but I remember one day he ends up walking up to me saying, "Bro, finally, bro." And I'm like, "Wait, what's wrong?" He's like, "Dude, my parents finally got divorced because like they found out my dad was like cheating or something, and like I don't know, now apparently I'm having like a new stepmom in the next couple months. I don't know, bro. It's weird, but like it's whatever. It's better than hearing arguments." And in my mind, honestly, one thing I will say is that it's crazy how many people get divorced nowadays. Like, no joke, I want to say almost like out of like 1,000 couples, there's always that 5 like couples that always get divorced. And it's really sad to see, and honestly, like me personally, I don't like divorce. I feel like it's just something that is so unnecessary. But at the same time though, I guess some people can't handle it better than others. So I remember afterwards, I started talking to him, and I, you know, started becoming really good friends with this guy. And then I want to say like after like 2 weeks later, my friend ended up saying, "Yo bro, like do you want to like maybe like come over and stuff?" Now at first, like I was like willing to go over and stuff, but one thing I realized that over the weeks of like us planning for me to go over to his house, he got really cocky because his parents would end up buying him stuff all the time. Because I don't know why, when parents get divorced, I guess they really just want their kid to like them more, like they're picking sides, I guess. So I remember this kid would end up getting like the nicest stuff and always showing it off, and he was always being basically a major ego, but at the same time, like it's no flex that your parents are divorced buying you all this stuff. Like, let's be real here, it's actually kind of depressing. But anyways, I remember that ended up happening, and he was just flexing it all the way. And I remember one time when he finally was like, "Yo bro, like you can come to my house on this day," I was like, "Sure, whatever." So I remember I ended up going to his dad's house, since his dad's house was closest to the school. And basically I remember when we entered inside, one thing I realized is that there was so much luxury items sitting everywhere. And by luxury items, I mean like there was like really nice like leather couches, there was a giant 85-inch flat screen in the living room, there was like literally like when you will go up to his room, you would see like another giant TV in his room with a gaming setup and all this stuff. Like this guy was literally balling. I don't know what his dad did for a living, but give me the job. So I remember I was looking around just amazed by all this, and then afterwards, out of nowhere, when I was just chilling in his room sitting down, I hear a voice. And it was weird because I know it wasn't his dad because it was like a woman voice. And right away I hear the door open and say, "Oh hey, how are you guys? Oh, so you brought a friend." I remember when she said that, she said it so weirdly, and I remember I looked at her and said, "Oh, like hi, like my name is Bubba," and I shook her hand. And when she was shaking my hand, for some reason she like used her other hand to grab my elbow and kind of like stroke my arm. It was super awkward. And I remember my buddy got up and said, "Oh yeah, this is my friend Bubba, you can leave us alone." And then she ended up basically leaving. At that point, she gave me like this weird death stare as she was leaving away, as if she didn't want me there, but at the same time wanted me there. I didn't know what was the situation, to be honest. So I remember me being super weirded out. I basically was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna just do my own thing and just forget about it. I started playing video games with my buddy, and I want to say like not even 5 to 10 minutes later, she comes back into the room with cookies. She comes back into the room. She's like, "Hey, like I just brought some cookies. You guys look like you guys need a snack." Thanks is what I said. And I remember I grabbed the cookies from her, and then she ended up like touching my hand at the same time. I don't know why. She was always somehow trying to find out a way to touch me. And I remember it got to the point where one time my buddy, after like playing a while of video games, because he had this new video game I really wanted to play, but after like a while, he ended up like getting up saying, "All right, bro, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick." And as he went for the bathroom, I was just sitting on my buddy's bed, and the mom ended up walking in again, his stepmom. And she walked in, she's like, "Oh, so like you go to school with him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like what about it?" And then she said, "Oh, like I'm just curious, like does he have like any like girls he's talking to?" I ended up kind of like looking at her really oddly, and I'm like, not that I know of, no. I'm not sure. And if I'm gonna be honest, he wasn't pulling girls. I'm gonna be fair with you, this guy could not pull girls for the life of him. I didn't say that to her, obviously, because you know that's kind of weird, you know, tell like a stepmom about what you're doing at school. Like it's, I don't know, it was weird, champ. Okay, but basically I ended up telling her, "Oh, like no, he's not really talking to anyone, I don't think." I don't know, to be honest, like you gotta ask him that. And then afterwards she ended up coming closer to me saying, "Oh, like do you have have like any experience with girls? Now at this point, there's one of two things I could have said. There's one thing where I'm like, yeah, like I'm the master at the devil's tango, and like I do it all the time. But at the same time though, I didn't say that because, you know, it's my friend's stepmom, so that would be super awkward. So me being a homie, I'm just like, oh, like nah, like I don't have any experience. Like I still have my V card. I totally capped. Okay, I capped. Okay, I pulled the cap card on her, and afterwards she ended up looking at me from like up to down, like to my feet, and she like basically checked me out, and she was like, oh, okay, like do you plan on leaving anytime soon? That really depends on your son or stepson, sorry, is what I said afterwards. And then she ended up just kind of like looking at me all weirdly, and she's like, okay, and she ended up getting up and leaving. But as she was leaving, I remember my buddy ended up walking into the room saying, yo bro, like why'd you come in here? I ended up just telling her how like she was just curious of like where I lived and stuff for some reason. I made up some BS excuse, and then he was like, you know, whatever, and then moved on from it. We sat down and played video games for another hour, but then became like 9:30 to like almost 10 o'clock at night, and my buddy was really tired, so he ended up telling me, yo bro, I'm probably gonna head to bed soon, like do you want to head out soon? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I ended up getting up, packing my stuff, because his dad was gonna come home at 12 at night, and since it was almost like 10:30, like I might as well just go home. And like I basically got my backpack and I started leaving, but as I was leaving for the door, my buddy walked me out, literally closes the door, I go to my car, and the next, like I want to say literally not even 2 minutes later, right as I'm starting up my car, his stepmom comes out of the house. His stepmom comes out of the house, literally walks up to me in my car and says, oh, you're leaving so soon? Yeah, is what I said. And then she said, oh, well, like I just made like some snacks and like food, like are you sure you're not hungry? Like do you want to come in? Like don't worry, like your friend's totally chill with it. The weird part was that she said my friend instead of like his actual name. I guess they have like some sort of beef, him and his stepmom, but I ended up getting out because I never say no to food. By the way, the one main secret about me is that the way to my heart is through my stomach. So if you're feeding me good, well, you're gonna get the eggplant. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I got out of my car and I ended up going inside with her. And when I got inside, I remember I sat down in the living room in the leather couch, just eating these snacks. She made like cookies, she made like some like biscuits and like tea. Like it was like really nice, and I love that kind of stuff. Like don't get me wrong, I'm Persian, I'm brown, so you know I enjoy that stuff. And then I remember as she was sitting beside me after bringing all the snacks, she's just kind of like, you know, getting close to me and stuff. And it got to the point where she's like, so like, what do you want to learn about women? And then she put her hand on my thigh. At that point, I know what that cue means, dude. When a girl gets that close to you where she can literally like smell her, that's when you know you're going in. Bravo 6 going dark. You know what I mean, bro? Like it's gonna happen. So I remember basically from there, I'm like, oh, like I don't know, like I want to learn some things, I guess. And then one thing led to another. She ended up taking me upstairs to her room, and my friend was passed out asleep. Like surprisingly, it was actually dead asleep. I guess he had like a curfew or something. And I remember basically I ended up going into like, you know, his parents' room, aka his dad's room, where he would sleep with his stepmom, or sorry, do the devil's tango. And then I ended up doing the devil's tango with his stepmom. No joke, his stepmom knew things that I didn't even know women could even do. Like it was some magical stuff, bro. So from there, I remember me and her, we were doing that, and then I want to say like not even like 10 minutes later, like I didn't even get to like bust it, you know what I mean? Like literally like 10 minutes later, my buddy ends up walking into the room saying, hey, who are you? And no joke, right behind him was his biological dad. At that point, I remember the mom or stepmom got up and like put on her robe, and then literally like me, I'm just sitting there like kind of like awkwardly looking at everyone saying, oh hey, like what's going on? At that point, his dad ended up like basically like making me put on my clothes, ended up grabbing me from my t-shirt, dragging me outside, and like threw me on the lawn. But I mean, I can't blame him. I don't know, like what else would you do really? And then I remember the next day at school, my buddy ended up walking up to me and he's like, bro, like you really had to do my stepmom. He wasn't upset that I did his stepmom, he's just upset that I really hurt his dad's heart. But at the same time though, what can I say? These hoes ain't loyal. Anyways guys, follow for more embarrassing stories.